This is SciByte, episode 48 for May 29th, 2012! Hi everyone, you're listening to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast, out every single Wednesday morning over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. My name is Chris, and joining me this week, like every single week, is Heather. Hey there, Heather.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey, happy science to you.
Happy science.
What the heck are we sciencing about this week?
This week, we're going to take a look at the Venus transit from next Tuesday, a rare rabbit, water in our solar system, creative noise, a dinosaur with tiny arms, Dragon spacecraft update, and as always, take a peek back into history and up in the sky this week.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm going to try to sit through everything until we get to the Dragon X space update, but you know that's what I'm freaking out about this week. I'm so excited to talk about that.
Yes, I put it at the end so it's like the catch. You want to hang on to that last minute because it's awesome.
I like the way you think. So before we go on, I just want to apologize to everybody who's joined us live over jblive.tv. Before SciByte started, I thought I would sort of get us in the investigative, intelligent mood, and I played some Sherlock Holmes reruns on the stream. I don't know if you saw any of those, but I like to do that every now and then. It seems like kind of in the spirit of SciByte. But I left the mouse cursor on the screen, and I just wanted to apologize to everybody. That's got to be really annoying. I wouldn't know, but I mean, I would assume so. So I just wanted to get that out there, and apologies, and also say a thanks to the J-Man for joining us last week for our year episode. Now we're on to year number 2.
We are.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Let's do the news. All right, what the heck is our first news story this week?
Next Tuesday, the day we're going to film or record next SciByte.
Yeah.
Yep, June 5th or June 6th in Australia, Asia, Venus will pass between the Earth and the Sun. Now, this kind of thing only happens like twice a century.
I thought, wait a minute, we just got the show. We just had this happen. What are you talking about?
The moon came between us and the sun.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was the annular eclipse or the partial eclipse, depending on where you were. But this is with Venus.
Venus.
And this rarely happens. I think the next time it's going to happen is 2117. So, I mean, I don't think any of us will, be maybe looking up about that time. So, you might want to catch it if you can.
Yeah. So this obviously, since it's so small and so far away, this is going to look a lot different than a regular eclipse.
Oh, yeah. This is, with the eclipse, you can make those pinhole types. You poke a hole in a piece of paper and you shine it and you can see the eclipse.
I made one of those in school.
Yeah. This is not something you'll be able to see through one of those.
Oh.
There's a number of different ways you can actually more properly see it. Binoculars, or you might be able to do this.
Binoculars? You can't look at the sun with binoculars.
Well, no, do not point your eye through binoculars at the sun. Not a good idea.
Okay.
Bad science.
Okay.
Okay, but if you point the binoculars so that they're still pointed towards the sun, your eye nowhere near it, and you shine it from, so it's going backwards through the binocular onto a piece of paper.
Oh, okay.
Then you can look at the sun, depending on how you focus and how, maybe is it on a tripod, how far away is the piece of paper. That's the kind of thing you can be able to see sunspots. You'll be able to see, Venus passing in front of you. You see a little tiny black dot go across.
Yeah, we got a video of this, of a demonstration, and it actually, it works out pretty good. What you kind of get is the opposite effect. You get the light reflects on the paper, and then there's a shadow or a little dark spot where Venus is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and you could do this at home if you had like a tripod for binoculars.
Yeah. Now into this kind of thing.
Play along at home.
Yes. I think it's in the video. It's put it inside a piece of cardboard, so it kind of blocks out the sun, so you can have kind of a shadowed area.
Yeah, that's definitely fancy up. Yeah, that way you have that way. Otherwise, the sun would be shining on the piece of paper.
Yeah, so it's a little bit easier to see it, but this kind of thing is pretty cool to be able to see that. I mean, this is, it doesn't happen very often. It happened in 2004 because it'll happen in groups. about 8 years apart, and then it'll be like a century, and then it'll be another 8 years apart, just because of how the orbits of Venus and the Earth go.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, you got some video of it in 2000 and 2004. This is really wicked looking.
Oh,
it
yeah.
looks like a monster.
The little wavy, probably because, the atmospheric disturbances.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have that with really powerful observational telescopes, things like that, specifically made for the sun. This is, then it'll look through the atmosphere so you can kind of see some of the waviness there. Made worse when it's warm or humid, things like that. And it tends to be warm when you're looking at the sun, so.
Let me ask you something. Don't you think it's kind of weird that essentially there's nothing but some gas between us and just a whole freaking space system out there? And the fact that we are slightly inconvenienced by looking out through that to look at this kind of thing, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that's a good trade-off. That is a perfectly good trade-off as far as I'm
concerned.
concerned.
We have to look through a little bit of, gases and stuff that keep us alive.
Yeah,
I suppose we can deal with that.
So do they have anything set up to get some really awesome visuals of it for the 2012 passing?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of astronomical observations. There's a lot of ways that people can be involved and, apps for your phone to kind of work with it. All sorts of different things. But the Hubble Space Telescope is in on the whole deal, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now the Hubble is, the instruments are so sensitive, you could never point it at the sun. It's always pointed away from the sun.
Yeah.
But what they're going to do is they're going to actually point it at the moon.
Oh,
and use the reflected light off of that to be able to see. Now, what they're going to do is
they're doing the binoculars method only with the Hubble telescope, kind of. The light isn't going. See, the light isn't going through the Hubble telescope, but they're using the reflection on the moon. Yes,
and a tiny bit of that light that gets to the moon is going through the Venus atmosphere. So the atmosphere of Venus will, some of the light will go through that, and it'll continue on to the moon. So what they're going to do is look at that tiny, tiny fraction of the light from the atmosphere on the moon to be able to say, let's see how much the chemical makeup of the atmosphere. Now, so we know what it is. So some of the light going through it, we can take the analysis of that and say, okay, this is what it looks like doing it this way. What is the reality? And kind of gauge how well we can guess.
That's awesome.
Because we can take that then and use it with the exoplanet stuff.
Oh,
we're looking out. Yeah. We're looking out at the, all these new planets out there in the galaxy and in the space. So we can look at those and we can see, all right, this is what we see, for the large planets, the Jupiter-sized planets. We can see the light coming through those planets, through the gases there, and be able to guess, the chemical makeup of those gases. Now, we haven't quite gotten down to doing that on, Earth or super Earths, but that's, that'll be in the making. So we'll be able to use this data that we get from looking at the moon, from, catching, the chemical equation, say, all right, this is what we see. Yes, it actually matches up. It's pretty good. That kind of thing. Or whether it's like, it catches some stuff. It doesn't catch other things quite as well. We can use that to then analyze what we see externally. So it'll use all of its wavelengths, the ultraviolet, the near infrared, every bit of the equipment that Hubble can use. They're going to point at the moon and do this. They've already done a test run, where they kind of pointed at the moon and did it, because it's actually fairly tricky when it's looking way out at a star.
Yeah.
I mean, you have some amount of, you must stay on target. But think of it like you're in a car and you're driving down the highway. Now, if you look at a big, corn silo, skyscraper, or something, kind of way off in the distance, you're not going to have to turn your head. You go a mile down the highway, you're not going to have to turn, a couple miles down the road. You're not going to have to turn your head very much.
Right.
But if you're looking at maybe a car in the slow lane, you're going to have to turn your head.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So they have to get it so that it's just right, so they can rotate the Hubble, in its orbit, because it's going around the Earth. So they have to move it in just the right way so it can continue tracking the moon so that it's just on target.
Right.
Because they're going to have, this will take 7 hours to do the whole thing. So it's like, 40 minutes out of each 96-minute orbit is going to be pointed right at the moon. So they have to kind of get it ready, track it while they're, for the 40 minutes that they're on the right side of the Earth, and then prep it for the next run. So they're going to be doing this for 7 hours, kind of tracking this so that they can get all of this data. Now, they'll pretty much need all of it. Only like 1/100,000th of the sunlight that gets to the moon and reflected is going to be through Venus's atmosphere. So they have to use all the data they can to kind of pull all the light.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible that they have that narrow of a window to work with, yet they're still able to accomplish that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
how accurate can they rely on that? I mean, how dead on is that? Do they know? Do they say?
Well, they're going to see.
We're going to find out.
How well can they track it? They can track it fairly well. They've already done some test runs to make sure.
Okay.
But what kind of light will they see refracted through Venus's atmosphere?
They don't know. They don't know until it happens, right?
Yeah, that's part of it, is seeing what they see. They're like, all right, what can we see when we know the answer? We know Venus's atmosphere is made up of X, Y, and Z.
That makes sense. So this is really a validate. I see. So that's how you're relating to the exoplanets. See, okay. Yeah. So you're validating findings that way. That was the part. Okay, that clicks. Okay. That's awesome. That is such a great opportunity to sort of test out things that we've sort of been assuming and basing a lot of assumptions on if the data is correct. And here we go. Boom. Here's a great chance to try it out right in our own backyard. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And does it pick up, some frequencies of light better than others? Does it not pick up certain chemicals? So we can see, if there is anything in Venus's atmosphere that maybe doesn't pick up as well or picks up really strongly, doing that, and use that to, a baseline for exoplanets. In addition, they'll be able to directly observe through other instruments, the light, the magnitude of light. So the sunspots will decrease the light from the sun just slightly, but so will Venus. It will. So if you can take that accurate of reading, they can say, okay, this is how much the sun's light dimmed by whatever tiny microscopic percentage.
Yeah.
This is how much it dims for, sunspots. This is how much it dims for this size of a planet. And then use that on the data for exoplanets and say, all right, it dims this much. Now that could be a sunspot, or that could be this size of a planet. Now, does it happen consistently at a certain orbital rate? Then maybe it's a planet. And how much does it dim? Then we can kind of guess how big it is. We can guess how far it is. So it gives us so much extra data to kind of, all of it's using this transit to pack as much data as possible that we could, all the ways that we use to look at exoplanets. So it's like how we look at them, we're going to figure out all the different ways that we can use it during this, so we can kind of validate and use it as a baseline. We're lucky,
in some sense, we're lucky that we have, in a way, a pretty interesting solar system, because we've got some really great gas giants. Yep. Obviously, we've got what I think to be a particularly good planet right there, about the third one in. I think that happens to be a nice winner. And we've got Mars, which actually, that's not so bad itself either. So we got a lot of stuff to work with here to do exactly this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And Mercury, we get Mercury transits quite a bit more frequently. Just because. But Venus is definitely, I said it before, it's, it'll happen in 8-year gaps, and then you just centuries. There's only been like 8 since the invention of the telescope. But when one of the first times they saw this with the telescope is they were able to look at this and measure when the dark spot first touches the sun, and when the whole thing is inside. So it's like nothing to black spot inside the sun. They're able to time that, and then time on the other side how much, when you get the black spot started at the edge of the sun, and then when it was finished, they're able to see that it was I think 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And so they're able to use that and use a whole bunch of geometry to say, okay, this is what we think the size of the planet is. This is what we think the size of the sun is. This is how far we think we are away from it. They're able to make a whole lot of inferences and calculations about our solar system from this kind of very event. From this very event before.
Yeah. Wow. So it's a...
Oh, yeah. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the show notes about ways to observe it. And, we'll talk a little bit later about how you can know where to look for yourself.
This is really cool.
Yeah. There are some show notes here. Find your local transit times. When essentially there's one it's like a Google map. You click on where you are and it'll tell you.
I like this.
This is when it starts. This is when it ends. And it'll be like little black clocks. Little clocks for like, this is before the sun rises.
So this
is after the sun sets.
It's got also, when you zoom way the heck out, it's got the whole overall transit lines on the map itself. And when you zoom in, so I get a nice little list here. I got a 68% average cloud cover for June though. That's not great. It's not great. It doesn't quite have my. So it must be using my IP information because it's got kind of like probably where maybe my ISP endpoint is, but it doesn't really have my address.
No, it has a guesstimate about where it thinks you are, and then you can kind of drag the little spot around, or you can say, "Hey, Auntie Sophelia is over here." Click. If you actually have an Auntie Sophelia, wow! Leave a note in the show notes. Dude,
this is cool though. You could send this link out and like, hey, this is coming up. Use this link to find out. And what's neat is if you have a newer browser, it'll say, hey, can I use your location? And you say yes, and you don't even have to bother with giving it your zip and stuff.
Yeah, and if you're interested in trying that, I really highly suggest doing it before that day.
Oh.
Last time we were talking about the lunar eclipse. There's a similar webpage, and if you tried to click on it that day, you could sit there and stare at a white page for a little while.
Yeah, everybody gets excited.
Yeah, everybody's looking at me right now.
That's why we try to tell you SciByte listeners ahead of time.
That's right.
Give you the
also, if you are in the cloudy regions or you just can't make it, or you don't think you could find a safe enough way to view it very nicely, then there are webcasts that will be made.
Yeah.
There's links to that, so you can watch the webcast. They're actually a whole bunch of astronomers have gone to Hawaii and Alaska because those are the only two states in the U.S. that will have the entire coverage during daylight. They'll be able to see the whole thing. And
they're streaming from there.
Yeah, they'll be streaming.
So you can watch the whole thing.
Yep, you can watch the whole thing. If you're in a place like Portugal, southern Spain, Western Africa, like 2/3 of South America, nobody in those locations will be able to view it at all. Oh. And
so they get the live stream.
Yeah, they'll be able to have the webcast. Other people, if you maybe only get it, before sunset or before sunrise, then you'll be able to see the whole thing. Or maybe you'll be at work for part of it, and then you want to get home.
They'll probably be in my boat where they could see it, but they're going to have clouds.
Yeah, they're in clouds, or, I'll be able to get home, but will I have everything set up so I can just bring it out?
Yeah.
Or maybe I forgot to set it all up, so just go online, check it out.
Be a good night for a barbecue, though.
There you go.
That would be a good excuse to get together, have some people over, have a few brews, and watch a planet move in front of the star. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. Pull up a computer and be like, hey, look, a planet's passing in front of the sun.
Party! You know what? Actually, that'd be a good spot to take a break because, I would like to remind everybody about our affiliate links over at JupiterBroadcasting.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom of Jupiter Broadcasting, you'll find them down there. And here's what's funny about that is I actually buy from Amazon US my charcoal. They have a good chunk charcoal on there, and when you have Prime, you get the free shipping. But we also have links for Newegg, ThinkGeek, Best Buy, Audible.com, which I'm going to be talking about soon because I freaking love it. I'm listening to a Star Trek book right now. Once I get through that Star Trek book, it's not really recommendation worthy. Once I get to a book that I know is going to be really great, I'll talk about it. And we also have a new one for Gamefly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I wonder what my chunk charcoal is because that is... Well, anyways, we can find out later because... but do please consider using those affiliate links when you shop, and or maybe just grab that Chrome browser, and then you don't even have to worry about it, right? Yeah,
exactly.
All right, well, let's move right along then. I do believe it's time for the SciByte News Bite.
I believe you're right.
How did I know?
I know. Let's see how many times we can say this without sounding like Elmer Fudd. A rare rabbit.
Okay.
Okay. We're not Elmer Fudd.
Rabbit. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So a research group with the University of Delaware has cameras set up in Sumatra, except they were looking for medium, small-sized wildcats. These kind of things that...
Sasquatch.
Not quite Sasquatch. That it's a different area. Sumatra's a little island. Sasquatch is, forests of North America. So maybe it's his tropical vacation home. I don't know. I'm going with it. These camera traps are set up so that it's like a little box, and it's almost a motion sensor like you have in a front yard where the light shines on. So what this does is it sees some movement, and then it flashes a picture, or it takes an infrared picture, or various things, so that they don't have to wade through hours and hours of blades of grass flowing in the wind. They can just see,
right.
Hey, there's a cat. Hey, there's this.
There's Bigfoot.
And there's Bigfoot. He's drinking his vacation drinks.
Actually, I think he's a Bud man. I think he drinks a lot of Budweiser.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But this time they spied a rabbit, and they kind of looked at it, and they're like, wait a minute. We think this is like a really rare rabbit. So it's a grad student looking for her master's or PhD, and stopped and went, huh. So stopped, like, kind of took a pause in the research they were doing, went out and searched about this rabbit. And, they got like 10 photographs of it and 2 different traps, a little over about 2,500 feet apart. And that data is pretty much the most data that anyone has ever compiled on these rabbits ever.
Huh.
So they have way more data about it than anything else. So they kind of so now they've added this to their research list, and they actually could have reached out a hand to all the other groups on this island with, camera traps looking for other things, about 20 or 30 other people.
Yeah. They
kind of have a wide range on the island to kind of say, okay, let's just, if anybody catches this on a picture, just send it on over to me. I'm going to kind of track what these are going.
I've ever heard the term camera trap, although it makes sense. I mean, I get what you mean by it, but that's just camera traps. Yeah, there's a... here's like a thread where people are looking for people. Camera traps.
Yeah, they use these in forests or remote locations. It's really good because then you can set it up, especially locations that are really hard to get to. Some of these, like in Sumatra, you're miles or hours away from where your camera is, and you're sleeping in a sleeping bag in some, hut that somebody has kindly shared with you and shared their little dinner, and there's no amenities to be heard of or sound of.
That doesn't sound very fun.
So, well, yeah, that's why
science can be hard work.
Science is hard work, and you got to live rough sometimes. But that's why they set these things up. They can set them up and just kind of set it and forget it style, where you're not wading through. You don't have to have the equipment for 300,000 hours of video. Then you've got some undergrad going bored out of his mind, and then falls asleep, and you miss the animal. But it takes a number of pictures, and you'll see gorillas. They use this for gorillas or cats or anything of that nature. I've seen quite a few of these type of things where they're like, hey, look. And occasionally you'll have the creature come up and sniff the camera, and it's funny. You're like, hey, what's this? And you see a giant nose.
See if there's any food in there.
Like, hey, what's this? Sniff, sniff. Oh, not edible. Okay, moving on.
Well, that... I kind of want to, I want a camera trap for my new garden that I set up. I want to know if there's pests getting in that thing.
Yeah.
How do I get one of these camera traps? Seems
I
like,
don't know,
honestly, it seems like it'd be a good use because there's apps that do this.
Oh, well, yeah.
So if you had like an old phone or something, but it wouldn't really work outside. But, you could set something like that up.
Yeah, there's like USB cameras or things like that. You could probably fairly easy find something that would record, or a little camera. Somebody in the chat room, Bozeman says trail cam.
Something
that you could set up.
You'd want to have something that could be battery powered, I guess.
Yes, battery powered, friendly for, if a shower comes through, you're not out however much you spent on it, or have a little, enclosure for it.
Yeah. And you got it. Well, kind of want one. Yeah. That sounds cool. And then, you know what? If I had one, maybe I'd get to find an extremely rare rabbit. Yeah. I did it. Extremely rare rabbit.
Look at that.
Although I don't think I could do it another time.
No.
So
I think we should
go to the next one. All right. Then you know what that means. You know what that means? It's time. The 2-Byte news. Ha-ha! Ladies and gentlemen,
in the center ring,
it's
we
the 2-Byte
have
news.
Water in our solar system.
So this is great. Now, did we
Yes.
talk about the first image that came out that showed water for Earth? We did talk about that. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, a couple back we talked about it.
Yep.
You know, there's Earth, and then if you took all the water on the surface, the radius of the ball would be about 430 miles across.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Now what they've done is they've taken Galileo probe data from 95 to 2003. And a lot of people know Europa. I've talked about it quite a few times. It has deep global ocean, thick layer of ice on top. You've been able to see the subsurface ocean.
Right.
There's salt water. And now they've done something similar to that. So they have the Earth and its little water bubble. And then Europa and its water bubble, which they think is, 50 to 105 miles deep, which would make it about 545 miles in diameter radius bubble.
Whoa,
So
wait, that's large. That's much larger than Earth's, isn't it?
Yeah, about 2 to 3 times the volume of Earth's oceans.
Well, we gotta get to space. Gotta get me some water.
Yep. So, hey, I know we talked about it at some point or other, but you're leaving the solar system and Europa's apparently the 7-Eleven, as you're leaving town.
You know what?
Like, all right,
seriously, isn't
last
it?
pit stop.
Seriously. It is, isn't it? You could go down there, you drill out a few ice core samples. It makes it even more portable, really. And you bring it up with you and you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what the space travel is going where to pick up the materials that you need along the way. So they're looking at some of these asteroids to see what kind of materials there are. One, to bring them back to Earth, and two, like, hey, what could we use in space to make stuff in space or go farther?
Right.
And this is, we've always known Europa has water, but when I saw this image,
it really drives it home.
Oh yeah, the link's in the show notes and it's in the video enhanced version. But yeah, you see like big old Earth, little ball of water, which we've seen it before, and it's kind of like, oh wow, good water, we love you.
Yeah.
And there's Europa and its water bubble, and it's just so drastically, it's so much bigger in comparison. Well, in comparison to what we have on Earth and in comparison to the planet itself.
Mm-hmm. It makes me kind of take a little more stock. I've seen documentaries that claim that one of the future scarcest resources is going to be water. And I always thought, how could that be? I mean, I can understand how we could pollute it, but how could we actually run out? And it's just we'd run out of usable water. And you could kind of see it illustrated with these photos.
Yeah.
You could see how it can happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to, clean water or make it drinkable again, which they're using cheaper ways to, in the third world countries and such. But yeah, the amount of water we have is really driven home by that picture. Like, I always knew it, but the one we had a couple of weeks ago kind of went, whoa, I got to share this because it's kind of cool. And then I saw this one, I was like, whoa.
It's very cool. And you also, I think it changes the way people kind of think about, in a way, because you would never think there's another planet out there that has more water than Earth in our solar system. Yeah,
I mean, you think, hey, we're 2/3 covered in water. That's a lot. And then you look at it, you're like, wait, no, not quite a lot. And then you look at Europa and you're like, wow.
And yeah, I mean, Europa's, it's just a moon.
Yeah, it's just a moon.
It's just a measly moon. I mean, what's it doing with all that water? Well, moons are supposed to be boring.
Not this moon.
There's probably space sharks underneath the. I bet when you go down about 30 miles or something, there's space sharks that don't need water.
They have lasers.
And
they at least have lasers. No lasers.
They glow because they're underwater that far, so they're still very freaky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, what is our next story? I got to get us away from the glowing space sharks as fast as possible.
Glowing space sharks, let's on that note, creative noise, because we are so creative with glowing space sharks.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to make some noise. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a professor of business in the University of Illinois has been studying how levels of ambient noise affect consumer sales. So, you're at the store or, the grocery, and there's that hum of people's voices. You kind of, you think about it, you're like, yeah, that kind of hum of people's voices and moon.
Crowds and
Not the moon. The mall.
The mall, yeah.
The mall on the moon.
If you've ever been there when they've closed and you're like the last person there, it's very different. Or like,
yes.
Like if you know, when you were a kid, maybe you stayed late for school and you go out in the area that's normally packed full of kids and you're the only student there.
Yeah. You're like, oh, it's quiet.
Yeah. Nice. I like that.
So, yeah. So what they were doing is they were analyzing, what levels of sound and how they affected consumers.
Okay.
So what they were looking at is about 70 decibels is about equivalent to a passenger car traveling on a highway, kind of what you hear.
Yeah.
And that actually enhances creative tasks. So you're more likely to try something new, creativity. So if you're at the store, you're more likely to go for that different brand or that, different book or game or something if they have the right noise at the right level. It's not white noise. People have heard of that, or pink noise, which is what they actually call the static on a television.
Yeah.
But it's this, it is that human voices hum. And it's funny because I remember, back in college, and I was like, in a room by myself after my roommate left, and I was like, it's quiet. It's way too quiet. I had 2 younger brothers, and I'm like, no, quiet won't work. So, I have like the radio on at some low level.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just some low level of voices.
I think this is to be honest with you, I think this is a big reason why podcasts are successful. In a lot of ways, it's companion listening. I usually never am in my office working in silence.
Yeah.
Right? Do you ever work in total silence? I mean, rarely.
No, there's always something going on in my office or in the lab to make plenty of noise. Yeah. And at the very least, I have like one earbud in my ear, like facing away from the rest of the office, like playing some music or something.
Yeah.
But that it kind of proves what we all have kind of, felt, is that they're too loud and it becomes a distraction. It becomes, you can't think, you can't deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's not that doesn't, boy, the line between helpful and distracting is very small for me. I can easily cross into distracting.
Yeah. But at that key level, not only does it kind of help you focus, but it really helps you be more creative, have more out of the box thinking. Mm-hmm. So if your boss complains that you have, one earbud in having music, you're like, hey, this is improving my productivity.
Wow.
This is making more creative. Wow. Science proved it.
Nice.
Now I don't know how far you're going to get with that, but you can certainly try.
Definitely could try. I will say, I've definitely identified this with myself, and this is why I love to have live streams up during the day, because I like to get current stuff, or I'll have music going all the time, or podcasts going all the time. Because I like if I need to sit down and do a lot of prep for a show, or I got to write a lot of email, I really need something else to go in the background.
Yeah. Now it's how much are you listening to that? I don't know.
Right.
Is it literally just the hum of voices, or is it just something there? And then if something triggers in, it's like, what? Wait. Yeah. It's like everyone in the office and the lab can be talking. Yeah. And when I hear my name, I suddenly turn. I'm like, what? They're like, they're like, oh, talking to me. I'm like, I have no idea what else you said.
I could be like, I'll be in a restaurant or the mall or Lowe's. I mean, whatever it is. And it could be full of hundreds of people. And if somebody in earshot says Linux or something technology related,
you bring keys on. You're
instantly. I'm like the Bionic Man dialing that sucker in, and I'm totally listening to what they're saying all of a sudden.
Bionic Man, Superman styles, like totally television. You're like,
it zooms up in on my ear.
Yeah.
So this is just right up my alley. It's just nice to actually see some science to it.
Yeah. Now, of course, they were doing it from the business standpoint, saying, hey, right about this level, this kind of noise will make people buy new stuff.
Can I tell you something? And I hope this isn't a racist thing. I don't think. I think this is I've been programmed.
Oh no.
Every now and then, when I hear a certain type of Spanish music, Mexican music, whatever, I honestly think, like, if I'm hungry, I think, you know what, Mexican food does sound good if it's like the kind of music they play in the restaurant. And I've been told I've been told that they play a certain type of music in there to do that, and they play it at a certain speed to get you to eat at a certain speed.
Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of stuff with that. I mean, I will say it outright. I can't hear mariachi music without being like, I need cheese. I need chips and dip. Chips and dip right now.
And I feel bad because, I mean, that's not fair to the people who love mariachi music.
No, it's just, it's Pavlovian.
It's programming.
Yeah, it's programming. You hear, something happens and you expect something else.
Yeah.
If you hear that type of thing enough, and that's really the majority of where you hear it, and then you eat chips and dip, there's your brain makes a connection. Your brain makes the connection. And like you were saying, the speed which they play can do that. Fast food restaurants used to make studies of this. What colors, what clashing colors and what kind of seating would make people want to leave. So you sit down, you eat, you go. Because that's the whole point of a fast food restaurant is you move people. Move people quickly. And so now they're kind of, then restaurants say, what kind of sound or what kind of this, changes people to do different things. But this was kind of one of those things that was very, I felt like it was not just business related. I'm like, hey, yes, I know this.
It goes all ranges. And it's interesting how music is so like, I noticed both my kids at very young ages, like, could, bop to a beat and bounce to a beat. Like kids have it built in. They like music. Even very early on, they can groove with it. And to that end, like even when I'm putting together a podcast, like I'll listen to a ton of music, and if anything sounds like a downer song or doesn't put me in the mood for the show, I no way does it go in, because that all that stuff kind of sets the mind. It sets the stage. That's what all this stuff is doing, right? Is it's setting the stage for a series of decisions to be made. Yeah.
And so this kind of sound levels. Now, like I said, I'm not quite sure whether, this study proves that it could go into, a single voice or music, but it's, it kind of gives take to this kind of, nice background human voice type thing going on in the background helps you really think out of the box and kind of get more creative.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And I've also seen some studies suggesting that you can find certain types of white noise that'll do it too. I know this is not about white noise, but I guess I've read that some say white noise will do it.
Yeah, for some people, that'll block out external noises.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of shut it down. Now, if you're like me, then no noise is bad. My brothers were, about 5 years younger than me, so the only time it was quiet was when they were about to sneak up on me.
Yeah, there's I've read a study that there is actually like the human brain has evolved in an environment where there has always been noise, and when there's no noise, it's generally a sign that a predator is around, so everything got quiet, so it can't be eaten.
Yeah, so you're like, wait, no, somebody's about to get me. I can't.
There might be a little bit of response built into like. Wait a minute, this is a spider sense telling me not everything is quite right. Because I know for me, I get uncomfortable after a while.
Yeah. So it's a lot of it is. It's just, it kind of proves, the right kind of environment around you, this low level sound to help kind of block out background noises, but not so much that it's really interfering with you. Kind of lets your brain flow.
Yeah, exactly. Helps you get in the flow.
Yep. One more reason to listen to SciByte.
There you go. Ding. Hey, you know what else is another reason to listen to SciByte? Because we're about to talk about dinosaur. Right?
We are.
Dinosaur time.
Yep. Quick note on a new dinosaur with teeny tiny arms.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know. Kind of a smaller.
He's not going to win any arm wrestling contest.
Oh, no. Kind of a smaller version, scaled down version of the T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex. But even with smaller arms. T-Rex is pretty small, but they think that maybe, that it could kind of hold a little bit of, animal flesh or meat to kind of grapple things while it ate. It wasn't doing anything with those arms. Not much of anything.
No, not really. Maybe when it's smaller, they'd be more useful. Like when it was a youngin.
Well, if it scales down, it would still be
small.
It would still be small. I mean, what makes it interesting is it's the oldest member of this type of lineage, which is kind of Tyrannosaurus Rex. Walking on 2 feet. Very lizard head. It's the oldest of that version by more than 40 million years. So it's by far the oldest of this kind of dinosaur we've seen, and it was a mostly complete skeleton. You can see there's a picture in the show notes or in the video enhanced where they spied part of the skull, but and there's fragments of the skull in the neck, but the rest of the skeleton is practically intact. Hips, spine, tail, arm, legs, good portion of the ribs. So it's a fairly good skeleton.
Yeah.
So you're not making a lot of inferences about it.
It's interesting, though, what inferences they can make just on the bits of backbone and skull piece they have, which are not much towards the top of the spine and the top of the head. But they're able, based on what they do have, they're able to make some pretty good guesses.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes with these kind of things, you can see this is related to that kind of a dinosaur. So it probably has a similar structure. So now, if you find a, human skeleton, you'd be like, okay, this is kind of what it looks like. Let's put the pieces kind of in that shape.
Right.
And then so many things can be brought from the skeletons, muscle grooves, because they could see how muscled it was here or there, or what kind of stress was on these bones. So, how much weight could it take? So much more can be taken from these.
And then
to kind of see.
They kind of get a picture of like how much would actually, in this guy's case, if they could look at that kind of stuff, they could get a picture and see how much it actually used, those little arms.
Yeah, how much it would have been useful, or, could it reach anything other than maybe, scratching an itch within fingers reach of where they are.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe they are for mating. Yeah, dinosaur mating. Right?
No.
Yeah, maybe.
Dinosaur awkwardness.
Yeah, that would be very awkward. I got to be honest with you. All right, well, any other thoughts on that one?
No, I think we've been awkward enough with dinosaurs.
Yeah, dinosaurs got weird. Huh, that's...
Yeah.
Oh, SciByte computer's beeping at me here. Oh, we have a spacecraft update, it tells me. Oh, what could this be?
You do. This is the Dragon spacecraft.
Oh.
First private spacecraft to the space station. Talked about it last week. Okay, I've been talking about a lot coming up to this.
Well,
I've been just a wee bit very excited.
It's pretty neat.
Oh, yeah. So it actually, it launched last Tuesday when the last SciByte was filmed, recorded, and now it has done so much more. On Friday, the 25th, it actually docked up with the space station.
Wow.
Yeah, the arm reached out and grabbed it. I actually was able to hook up to online to NASA TV, and we were able to see it.
Did you watch it live?
Yeah, I caught on just a few minutes after the arm grappled it.
Oh, wow.
And I watched live as it pulled it in towards the space station, and as it hooked on and successfully made the connection. I was I was playing, but I was trying not to get too distracted and kill us, in our game, because I was watching it inch closer and closer to the space station.
I'm glad I wasn't playing SOTOR with you then.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I did watch some of the clips, and
there's loads of videos and clips.
It looks really cool
around and in the show notes and stuff. And then on Saturday, the hatch was actually opened.
Wow.
Now now we aren't the only ones excited. The space station astronauts were actually so excited that they kind of opened it about 2 hours before they were scheduled to do it.
Wow.
So, it got all pressurized and it was fine. And then they cracked it open. Some of the videos you'll see them wearing dust masks or, face shields or goggles.
Yeah, why were they doing that? Is that for contamination?
For safety. Because they really didn't know if there was anything loose, if something had been knocked loose.
Oh.
Something was there, anything going on? So maybe a food packet got free. Was there dust? Were there little floating things? So it was really for safety. And once they were able to kind of see it, make sure everything was locked down, and they said, hey, everything is packed away. It's all good. Nothing floating. Excellent work. And then Memorial Day.
They really take every precaution, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not down the street.
Right.
You kind of want to be careful.
Yeah.
So astronauts spent their Memorial Day starting to unload a little over 1,000 pounds of cargo.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, not like they have to lift it all that much, right? Because
it's kind of just unpack and whoosh you down the hallway.
Yeah.
So it's not like lift and carry. But so that'll take about 25 hours worth of unpacking.
Wow.
They're kind of doing it in shifts. What I read was, they're kind of taking turns sleeping and unloading and, kind of packing. And then once they unload everything, they've got a whole bunch of stuff to load in. Now, they've been prepping for this.
Yeah.
They knew they were going to, so they have everything kind of lined up so that they could pull it out and store things quickly, and then kind of think all the things lined up, all the trash and all the scientific experiments that need to go back to Earth. They kind of have that ready to kind of plug it back into the Dragon so it'll come down. And it'll actually detach and make a splashdown on Thursday, the 31st. So we're coming up with that. So in a couple days, so next week I'll still be excited and still be talking about it.
They're just loading it up with non-essentials. What does that mean exactly?
there'll be a whole bunch of.
Have they been specific as to like? Does that mean like stuff that if it blows up, they're not missing it? Is that? I'm assuming that's what they mean. I mean, hopefully it doesn't blow up.
They sent it up?
No, when we're sending, because I guess they're sending. You mentioned they're loading and sending it back with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I read that it was all non-essentials that they're sending it back with, like, but they never were like. I mean, I guess this is all just in case things go bad.
Well, yeah. There's a couple different. The non-essentials kind of threw me because they were always saying what they were sending up is non-essential equipment. Essentially, they were making sure that, like you said, should it get delayed, which it did a few times, should the worst happen, they're not going to be. They're not. Astronaut's going to be. Yeah, they're not. They're not going to have to crash land back at Earth because they ran out of Slim Jims. But
I don't think that. It's chat room suggesting. Bossman suggests maybe an assortment of Twinkies.
Yeah, there you go.
But I said non-essential. So
yeah. So what they're sending back, there could be. They're going to load it back up. There's some scientific experiments that they could send down quickly. That it would be nice to retrieve them back on Earth to finish examining them and making all the final analysis. And right now they pretty much do trash. If they do a trash run, there's waiting for a Soyuz or something to come up that can actually take it down, or just kind of chunking it, letting it burn up in the atmosphere. So what this has let them do is actually put things in there maybe they don't want to. They need to get out of the space station. They don't want to burn it up. Store those kind of things away. Pack a whole bunch of scientific experiments that can be analyzed back on Earth, and then it'll come down for the splashdown. This is one of the first that will be able to come back. So they sent this capsule up. It'll be able to come back. We'll be able to retrieve it. So it's like this whole process of once they get these going, they now have SpaceX now has a contract with NASA for 12 more of these similar runs.
Right, assuming this one goes okay.
Yeah, well, so far it has.
Yeah.
We're just a couple days away from it completely, finishing its mission. The next one they have is early as September of this year. So if they start making this a pattern, then they know they can ship stuff up, they can, unload it, they can take a whole bunch of stuff back down to Earth, examine it, maybe stuff that needs to be safely taken down, maybe just trash.
Yeah.
But there's 6 astronauts up on the station, and they actually all kind of, at one point, they were all kind of in there unloading stuff.
Yeah.
They said, you know what? It really wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't a whole bunch of room because it was a whole bunch of equipment and all 6 of us, but it was, there was definitely more room. At least one astronaut said, it's more roomier than a Soyuz capsule coming up.
Wow. Well,
so, I mean, the next stage of this would be passenger, and they're already working on these kind of things. We'll send astronauts up. There's a video of, you might have already started it, about 3 of them, and they're all just kind of sitting around. There's plenty of room. One of them said, it's about as much stuff that he could pack.
Oh, they're in it right now.
Yeah, they're actually inside it.
There actually is plenty of room in that thing.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of room. There's a whole bunch of white boxes surrounding them that they've got equipment in, and they're just they set up to do the interview actually inside it. They're like, hey, they're all just hanging out.
Yeah, what's funny is you can really see their arms and legs have really kind of gotten a lot smaller.
You mean?
Well, their legs look like very thin.
Well, you don't have.
I know, but it really is starting to show.
There's lots of equipment to be able to, work against that. So rubber bands and things like that to kind of put the pressure back on.
It's probably because I don't see them in shorts very often. That I don't. Well, I don't. They're usually in like some sort of cool space pants. But seeing them in shorts, you really get to see how it really does take a toll on the body to be up there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but I'd totally do it.
Oh well, yeah. Totally.
Well, very interesting. So here's hoping that Thursday splashdown goes okay, right?
Yes. One last thing about this, that there's links about in the show notes for all the Twitters, so you could kind of watch SpaceX and Elon Musk as it was happening. And Elon Musk actually, he's the owner of this. He started all this. He actually Twittered, President just called to say congrats. Caller ID was blocked. So at first I thought it was a telemarketer. It was like, telemarketer, I'm not picking that up. I'm in like celebration mode.
Right.
Oh, it's the president. I guess I should pick that up.
It's true because he wouldn't call. Right. I would honestly also, if I saw caller ID blocked, I don't answer it. I never do.
Yeah. I mean that of course it's going to be caller ID blocked because they don't want to hand the number out to him. Right. I don't want to hand the number out, but I saw that and I laughed. I was like, oh man, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So important dignitary calls in, caller ID blocked. You're like, nope, I'm in celebration mode, not picking that up. And I'm like, oh, wait. Yeah. Hello, Mr. President.
That's nice of him to give him a call.
Well, yeah, the president, NASA administrators, a whole bunch of different people made either announcements or kind of called in to say congratulations.
Yeah.
It's kind of it is a big event.
Yeah, it is. It is, and hopefully it will let us get up in space even more.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? All right, Heather, we'll step on over here. We got to jump in the time machine. Here we go. Close the door.
Almost didn't. It was bad. It was so bad.
I feel like we're going a ways back. You could tell.
Yeah?
You know, it's got that shake to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of got that shake. Oh, yeah, here we go. We just landed 123 years ago, June 2nd, 1889. What happened?
Hydroelectric power plant generating alternating current electricity was turned on for the first time.
Oh, when?
1889.
Oh, well, no, I mean when, as in when.
oh, yeah, yay.
Right, yeah, like.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
sorry.
Now I'm caught back up.
Okay.
So it was made, available to consumers at a significant distance from its origin. So it was like 13 miles away. Linked Willamette Falls Electric Company to the power plant in Portland, Oregon. I'm sorry if I mispronounced Willamette Falls. So it was two big water wheels driven in a single phase, giant 700 kilowatt generator. It wasn't necessarily the first one.
Oh.
Another one had been demonstrated, but it was the first using alternating current, so AC current.
Right. Well, there was a competing. Yeah, it was DC and AC were competing, but so.
Yeah. And making it AC also makes it possible to make long distance transmission.
Right. That is the key.
Yeah. DC is very short.
Yeah.
You can only send it so far, but AC you can send it much farther.
Well, this is really great. This is. I didn't realize we were actually into hydroelectricity that long ago. This is a big source of how Washington State gets its power.
Yeah.
We're big on that, and also I think I would assume. Well, I think we kind of have lower than average power prices in my state. So
wow.
Yeah, I take it. All right, Heather.
Okay.
Well, our next destination took us to 65 years ago, June 1st, 1947.
Photosensitive glass. Developing photosensitive glass was first publicly announced. First been made by the Corning Glassworks company in 1937, a little while back. But it was announced, and what it is crystal clear glass exposed to ultraviolet light, followed by a specific heat treatment, actually forms some submicroscopic metal particles. So within creating an image in the glass. It's pretty much the most durable photographic medium. There's a lot of these were made in astronomy. So a lot of these old, glass plates are still around. They're still perfectly as clear as the day they were made, and they're kind of digitizing those and keeping those in safekeeping.
They can't do color, though.
No, it was just, in the day you really couldn't do a lot of color anyway.
Mm-hmm. These are really cool.
Oh, yeah. But it's just... These kind of things were 65 years ago, and I've heard of them because of astronomy.
Oh, okay.
Various star observations, put onto these kind of things.
I've heard of I've heard of sort of referring to images stored on plates. So they literally are on sort of plates.
Yeah, glass plates that just exactly that'll.
Wow, some of the more modern ones can actually be very, very well. I just did a Google image search for a sort of modern art version of one that was taken more recently, and it's incredible.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. All right, well, there you go. So now that was, of course, looking back, and it's time now that we look up into the sky.
Right. Not only to the stars in Saturn, but you can actually spot the Dragon spacecraft attached to the space station this week.
Aha.
So now it's pretty much going to look like a little star tracking across the sky. And you can see the space station generally, but this time you see it track, between now and Thursday. So for the next couple days, you'll be able to see it. And when that star tracks, it's the space station plus the Dragon. There's a couple of links in the show notes that you can see, plug in, kind of look up where you are. They're not as user-friendly as some other sites. One of them on the right, you'll have to click, where you are, the left, where you are. Another one is kind of a big long list, but you can kind of go through it and see for what state you're in, what country you're in.
I have to click on my city directly? That seems so manual.
I know. You can't just click on a little Google map. Everything else has been really...
The Google map, yeah, the Google map even would auto-locate you if you wanted to.
Yeah, so it takes a little bit more effort, but I'm assuming if you're going to try to go out and observe this at night, you'll probably willing to go into a little bit more effort to kind of see what time and what direction you'll be able to look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, just Googling probably this kind of information, you might get a better idea too, because this is a more spotlighted event.
Yeah.
Those kind of websites also show you anytime you can observe the space station, all these other satellites or things, when all this stuff is up and when you can see it.
Yeah.
But right now it's most interesting because that little when it shoots across the sky, it'll actually have the Dragon spacecraft attached.
How many times do you get to say I spotted a spacecraft?
Yep.
So I mean that is pretty cool. That's a good opportunity.
Yep.
Especially, boy, I can't wait till Dylan gets older because he and I will look at all this kind of stuff. Or Abby. I don't want to exclude Abby, but I'm just saying I suspect it'll be Dylan. But I don't know. We'll see. All right. Anything else up in the sky for this week? Yes.
Wednesday, May 30th, we've got Saturn and Spica to the left of the moon in the evening. Saturn's going to be the higher of the two. Moving on to Thursday, Saturn, Spica, and the moon will actually form a line. Saturn is the highest. And how well they line up kind of depends on where you are at Earth. But they'll be just a few degrees apart from each other. So each one will be about a finger's width at arm's length apart from each other. So they're really close.
Okay. Quite a party up there.
Yeah. On Friday, June the 1st, between 10 and 11 o'clock U.S. time, the summer triangle will be in the east. 3 bright stars making a triangle. Vega is the brightest star in the eastern sky. In the top corner. Deneb is the brightest star to the lower left. And then Altair is to Vega's lower right. So there's three bright stars there called the summer triangle. You can always check back in the show notes because some of these names are, if you're not familiar with them, a little tricky.
Yeah.
On Monday, June 4th, another partial lunar eclipse is going to happen just before sunrise when the Earth's shadow actually covers about a third of the moon. And then, of course, Tuesday, we've got the Venus transit.
Yeah.
Wrapping the show back to the first part.
Boy, it really is busy up there.
Yes.
A lot going on. It's good. I'm glad we have that segment. Keep track of what's going on up there. Keeping an eye on those planets and stars because somebody has to.
Yep.
If we don't do it, nobody else will.
I know.
All right, Heather. Well, I think that's our whole show.
I think so.
Well, thank you. It was a great show. I enjoyed it very much. I like getting my SpaceX update.
Yes.
Well, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of SciByte. Of course, you can join us live Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. You actually get to star in our chat room when you do that. We do that over at jblive.tv. Download this show in just about any format you want over jupiterbroadcasting.com Wednesday mornings. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you next week.